May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our hope. Amen. There are seven. There are seven. I know we've had this conversation before because once upon a time I said there was six. There are seven. Here's why I think I sometimes get confused about how many times in the Gospel of John Jesus says, I am something. You'd think I wouldn't, but I do. Because you'd think, I'm sure you're probably thinking I have the Gospel of John memorized because, any decent minister would. But I don't. I don't. Here are the seven I am sayings in the Gospel of John. Jesus says, I am the bread of life, in John 6. I'm the light of the world, in John 8. I am the door or the gate of the sheepfold, in John 10. I am the good shepherd, also in John 10. I am the resurrection and the life, John 11. I am the way and the truth and the life, John 14. I am the vine, John 15, the one we heard today. That's them in order also, of course. Seven of them. I think what confuses me, first of all, I think what confuses me is why Jesus would say, I am these things and not, I'm like these things. It's a metaphor after all, right? I mean, Jesus isn't literally a light bulb or a loaf of bread. It's a metaphor. But why not say, I'm like these things? Why say I am? Well, two reasons. First of all, I think the author of the Gospel of John wants to remind us, as he has done elsewhere in the Gospel of John, that he wants to remind us of earlier things from the beginning. In the beginning was the Word, remember? Well, remember way back at the beginning of Exodus, when Moses is having a conversation with God and he says to God, what do I tell the people? What's your name? Who are you? Because they're going to ask. And God says, I am what I am. So this isn't just Jesus saying, I'm like these things. It's Jesus, the divine spirit of Jesus, saying, I am. Just as here, Jesus says, I abide in God, abide in me. The other thing is, I think also that the author of the Gospel of John wants to remind us that it isn't about being like something, because that's not what Jesus is about. Jesus is about reminding us that the divine spirit is alive in us, that we are capable of all that Jesus is capable of. I'm showing you what you can do with love. Just you have to reconnect with that love that's in you. So when Jesus says, I am, and then goes on to talk about how we should abide in Jesus as we abide in God, it is about being. It's not about being like. It's about being. It's the intimate relationship we have with love. Another reason why I think I have so much trouble remembering that there's seven, and don't even ask me to repeat them in order because I've already forgotten them. In order, I remember them all. Is, shouldn't I am the resurrection of the life come last? Or I am the way? Shouldn't that one come last? Because surely, he's building up to a point, right? So the really important one should come last. But the really important one does come last. Because the image of the vine is about how we are connected, intimately connected, how we are. In fact, not to confuse anybody, myself included, but shouldn't there be 8 I am statements? I mean, it doesn't actually say the words I am, but surely after Jesus talks about the vine and how we are connected to each other, intimately abide in each other. And then he says, love one another as I've showed you to love. Somewhere in there, don't we hear Jesus really saying, I am love? That's the very part of Jesus that Jesus wants us to know. That's the connection. That's the vine. That's the light and the bread and all of that other stuff. The point of the vine image is to remind us that we are connected to each other, to Jesus, to God, through love. The root of all of that is love. It's what's at the heart of all of those things. Now that I think about it, I'm actually kind of surprised that John didn't have Jesus say, I am love. In fact, he probably should have said, I am love, and so are you. Do you get it yet? Because he's tried every other image, every other way of showing us love. And reminding us that that love is in us. It connects us to each other, to all of creation, to all of the love that is in all things. All of the love that's in Jesus, all of the love that is God. Now, I know I said earlier I used to get kind of confused because the order surely should end with I am the way or I'm the resurrection and the life, because that's the one that's coming up. But doesn't it now make perfect sense that Jesus would talk about our connectedness, an image of our connectedness last, and then talk about how we abide in love, and then remind us that we should love one another as Jesus has showed us. To live in that, not like it, not to modify our behavior in order that, but to abide in it. To realize that connection, that connectedness. And not only live into that for ourselves, but live that into the world. We are the hands and feet of Christ in the world now and always.